Virtually everyone who is looking into owning their own business finds a point at which they start to focus more on the detail than the big picture. For example, we'll hear that I'm not sure I want that business because there's a lot of competition. Now, the corollary to that is to understand that any good business will have competition. It's part of the business and not a threat against it. Joe, at one time we were discussing this and you gave me an interesting quote from Zig Ziglar. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Zig Ziglar, the famed sales trainer and author, said that people don't buy drills, they actually buy holes. Mm-hmm. It may look like they're buying a drill, but they really want the hole. And if you carry that logic further into franchising, you really get to see people looking at franchises, they really don't want the franchise. They want the results, right? They want some life that they're designing for themselves or their family, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. And the other thing would be relative to competition. I mean, the response would be like, so what? Show me a business that's worthy of owning, that doesn't have some competition, which was to your point. And that isn't even the concern, or that isn't even the issue. It's what's the franchisor's strategy, okay, for carving out its position in the marketplace. At the end of the day, what's the likelihood that I can use the franchisor's platform, their business model, their business strategies to produce that life that I want for myself and my family? But people do get hung up in the minutia. Reminds me a little bit of a play that I saw one time where this big ego, big position auto executive was at a party with a fireman. And he was showing this fireman his new Rolex that he was really proud of. He was describing it's got a diamond-encrusted dial and a solid gold band. And I paid $20,000 for this watch. And the fireman's response was, wow, you must really know what time it is. Now, people invest in franchise. I would say they're more like the fireman than the big egoed, auto executive. Yeah. They're more practical. Like what's the purpose of owning a watch? Mm-hmm. To know what time it is, like the result, right? So what's the purpose of owning a franchise is to produce a life that you want for yourself or your family. In other words, your goals. Now, if you saw somebody looking at a franchise, Paul, and you kind of saw them detaching from the big picture and really getting caught up in the minutia of the business, like being afraid of competition, what would you tell them?
First of all, I strongly encourage them to write out their goals.
Right.
Now, if you take the typical process, you begin by wanting to move away from something. I don't like all of the travel. This job isn't satisfying. But then you move into an area of what do I want to achieve? That's the critical piece.
Right.
So what do you want to achieve, as you said, with your family, with your lifestyle? So have those in front of you and keep coming back and reviewing those regularly.
All throughout the process.
Throughout the process. And then ask yourself, what are the resources I have to get into this business?
Right.
So that means everything, financial, time, etc. And rely on the franchisor to keep you positioned and deal with the details. They'll have a system that walks you through all of those things.
Right. And one thing we want you to do is get in contact with the franchisor representative and make sure you share what those goals are. Mm-hmm. They have a long history of helping people just like you determine whether or not that goals could be met with this franchise system with a high degree of probability.